What's up, Totem community? I am your coach, Tim Landicho. Super pumped to have two guests with me today. I think you're really going to love our talk. The guests are Brooke from our product team and Jacob from our performance team. And we're going to talk about two new product features that are really going to enhance your experience on Tonal, specifically really streamlining how you get to your goals. And really, that's what we're here to do, right? Like you're showing up consistently. I know my goal as a coach is if you're putting in the time, I want to make sure you get the results. And Brooke and Jacob and their teams, we're all on the same page. We really want to make this whole training experience worthwhile for you. So, before I introduce them real quick, I just want to give you a brief reminder of a recent a product feature that we launched called Training Effect Goals. And just as a quick bullet list, we have on that list of training effect goals, we have endurance, strength, performance, weight loss, muscle growth, functional strength, movement quality, and consistency. Now, I know that might sound like a lot, but part of the reason why it's so important to for you to get in there and choose the right goals for you, really ask yourself, what do I want to get out of the next several months of my training? Part of why that's so important is that's going to give you the direction and help us give you a personalized roadmap to get there. So with that, riding on the tails of our TEGs, our training effect goals, we have two new features called enhanced workout details. That's one. And then personalized weekly targets. Are you guys ready to jump in and see what this is about? Brooke, welcome. I
Thank
got a
you.
question for you.
Mhm.
Okay, so Brooke is from our product team. Brooke, let's start out with enhanced workout details. Why was this an important update to support our members working on achieving their goals on Tonal?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think most of us hope that we're doing workouts and programs that are going to help us make progress towards our goals. But I think even for our most advanced users, it can be kind of hard to tell between two different workouts, like what is going to move the needle the most towards my goals. So we wanted to give folks a bit of a cheat sheet to help you identify exactly how much any on-tonal workout or program is going to align to your training goals. And we're really, to your point earlier, like building on the work that we've already done to match your content recommendations towards your goals, but we're going a level deeper. So, our coaches like yourself and our programming team do such a great job of optimizing our workouts and programs for different goals already by tweaking different training variables, things like movement selection or the rep and set structure, which you're going to hear more about. But our team has really used this knowledge to identify what are those training variables that are going to be the most critical to make progress against your goals. And they've done all of that to develop this standardized scoring system that can tell you how beneficial a workout or program is going to be to your goals when we compare it to all other content in our library. So we'll hear more about that, but I do want to share a quick visual just to give folks a sense of what they can expect to see when they log on to Trainer or their mobile apps. Let me just share my screen. Give me 1 second. So, next time that you log on to your Tonal after October 21st and you get into the workout or program details, you're now going to see this new training goals section. And within this section, you can kind of use it in two different ways. So the first we can see here is when it is isolated specifically for your goals that you've chosen. And you're going to see the exact, relevance to your specific goals, but you can also expand it as you can see below. And I won't make us dizzy, so we can go to the mobile version so you can see here. You can check out how much is going to impact any one of our different training goals on Tonal, because sometimes you want to do something different. So that's what you can expect to see after October 21st.
Oh, amazing. I really love that you pulled in those visuals because I think sometimes it's like one thing to hear about it, but then to see how it's actually going to come to life. Like I'm already like anticipating that like whoever is listening to this is super amped right now because I'm looking at this and I know from a coach perspective, one of the things that like we're constantly fielding, whether that's on social media or in our Facebook group or things like that, is constantly like all these questions about like, hey, I have this goal. What are the right workouts for me? And then how do I know that I'm progressing towards that? Like what metrics even matter for that? So what I really love about this is it gives a very clear and super visual way of understanding, all right, if I look at this workout and my goal is muscle growth or my goal is whatever else, I can immediately know visually, boom, boom, boom. Oh, this is a great fit for me. Or maybe not for right now, maybe later if my goals shift, but here it's a really great way to navigate all the content that we have. So I love that.
Mhm.
Um, Brooke, is there anything else there before I turn to Jake? As we talk about like workouts and programs, is there anything else that you wanted to cover in terms of just the new feature?
I think maybe one thing I can highlight is just this is such a great resource for when you get into the detail screen. But in terms of if you want to just take a quick pass at like how can I find content that's going to be a great fit for your goals, one thing you can do is look at your For You page. You can always find, programs for, say in this case, your goals weight loss, programs for weight loss, workouts for weight loss. And you can also use our filters. We've added training goal filters. You already have those today, but if you haven't used them already, that's a really great way just to quickly surface. Here's everything that's going to be relevant for my training goals.
Ugh, that makes my heart so happy. Shout out to Brooke and her entire team. Brooke, thank you so much. Jake, I got a question for you. So, little context for Jake. Jake works on our performance innovation team. So, for anyone curious, our performance innovation team, they're really the bread and butter that makes sure that anything we do at Tonal is not a fad. It's not just random stuff we pulled off of TikTok. Like, I won't go into detail of like everyone's credentials, but just trust these people have done amazing things in the industry. They've worked with Olympians, they worked with collegiate athletes, and so they're really I really just want to cue this up for Jake because Jake is one of the big brains behind, here's how these things specifically are going to get you to your goals. So, Jake, thank you for joining us. What can members expect from workouts and programs that score high in each of the training goals?
First, Tim, thanks for having me. Excited to be here and really excited to share the stage with you and Brooke to give our members more information here. Brooke, I actually think that visual you had up, yeah, there you go, can help give some context to this. So if you can sort of hold that previous image in your mind where you see the different bars being filled, as Brooke mentioned before, we created this scoring system. And it's a very complex, but for the purpose of today, I'll try to give just a high level overview is we tried to map and measure the exposure of all of our workouts and those variables that are going to give you for the relevant stimuli specific to each goal. So now we can kind of pivot towards when you're looking at this scorecard and you see a bar that's full, what does that actually mean and how does that relate to the experience that you can expect from that workout? So if we start here, yeah, we can just look at this screen. So if you see a muscle growth and that's your main goal and you see that bar is full, what does that mean from a training variable standpoint? So if you've listened to previous tonal talks in the past, you've probably heard us talk about this concept of mechanical tension, not initiating this cascade for muscle protein synthesis, and also the importance of accumulating a lot of volume as we see this dose response relationship with volume and muscle growth. So those are the main factors that we tried to capture in this scoring criteria for muscle growth. So if you see that the muscle growth bar is completely full, you can expect to see, a lot of volume being generated by the end of this workout. So specifically from like a program manipulation standpoint, you're going to see a lot of compound movements that generate a lot of volume. You'll see these moderate rep ranges, so probably in that 8 to 12 rep range, and you also see some moderate rest periods as well. But just from like a context standpoint, if you have a couple of exercises, maybe 1 to 3 sets at this that are going to accumulate some volume for you, you might see 1, 2, or 3 bars filled. But as we increase your exposure in this stimulus that's relevant for muscle growth, that's when you're going to start to see more of these bars filled up. So if you have maybe 10, 15, 20 sets of these compound exercises, just so you know, that's what you're getting yourself into when you see a completely full muscle growth bar.
Wow, I love that. An analogy that came to mind for me just now, as you're describing that, specifically with how, each goal does require a little bit of a different stimulus. You know, the phrase movement is medicine, right? Sometimes we hear that like movement is medicine. And obviously, as a coach, I believe that. But what I love about this is it's kind of giving us a more specific prescription of, okay, what kind of medicine do you need for, like, if my goal is to do this, amazing. Here's this medicine. Here's your guideline for this is the specific prescription for that
Mhm.
versus this is going to be the specific prescription for that. So I love that. The other thing that I want to just kind of talk about is I think this is going to really help with like just expectation management, like on the members end. Like I think out of everyone at the company, I think the coaches are really the ones who are interacting with members constantly. Just like in the Facebook group, we're like hearing very directly from them. And what I really see this getting ahead of is like just eliminating, I think, a lot of the problems that we've historically seen of like, I started a program because the name sounded cool or like the description sounded great, but then once I started, I was like, I don't really think it's the right fit for me right now. And it's not that it's a bad program, but it's like it's just not meeting me where I'm at right now, right? Or I think just from a manage expectation management standpoint of like how quickly we'll be progressing, which we'll cover very, very shortly. I think this is all just going to go such a long way towards giving people a lot more peace of mind and a lot more trust in the process. And to me, when I think about consistency, and right, it's no secret that obviously you need to be consistent in order to reach your goals, just that level of trust in the process of like, okay, this is the right fit for me. It's going to give me exactly what I need. And if I just show up and follow all the steps, it's going to get me there. And I think that you've just removed so much of that mental load from people that is just going to make consistency shoot through the roof, which is why as a coach, like I literally have goosebumps right now. So excited about this. So amazing. Okay, so with that said, we talked about our first feature. Let's get into our second one, personalized weekly targets. This is a feature that I am personally very excited about for some of the reasons that we just talked about, right? We talked about consistency. One of the biggest drivers of consistency is visibly seeing that you are making progress, right? I think we could talk about like all this mindset stuff and all of that. I think that is hugely important. But at the end of the day, just when I think of all the times I've worked with clients, there is nothing that motivates someone quite like seeing the evidence that they generated for themselves that they're moving in the right direction. So I'm super pumped to talk about this one. Brooke, what are personalized weekly targets and why should members be excited about this new addition to the training goals ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna switch up the visual here and give you a little sense of what you have to look forward to coming up again, October 21st. But to your point, Tim, like we all have different reasons for why we show up on Tonal and the goals that we want to see progress against. And our first launch of training goals in February was really the first step for us to understand more about the goals that you want to achieve on Tonal and how we can connect you to the right workouts and programs to see progress. But we really wanted to eliminate that guesswork the same way we did with the previous feature we were speaking about, to get into the right workouts and programs for you. How do we take the guesswork out of how much you need to put into each goal to progress so you can just focus on doing the work? And what is so cool, from my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinion on this call about working out on Tonal is that with every workout you complete, we're collecting data about your performance, and we can use that to assess your gains and determine exactly what you need to be doing to make progress. And we already do this in a lot of ways, right? Like we have strength score, we have your volume and power PRs, even just looking at how your weights have changed over time for each movement. But we wanted to unlock much more granular metrics that could measure your progress against your chosen training goals. So we've introduced personalized weekly targets, and now for each of the training goals that you've chosen, you're going to have a performance-based metric that is the best possible way to measure your progress on Tonal against that goal. And how that works, I'll just do a quick overview, but the start of each week, we're going to set a weekly target for each of your metrics, and these are based on your individual performance. So they are completely personal to you. And we're going to look at your performance over the last 8 weeks apply the principle of progressive overload and gradually push your weekly target up just above your typical performance. So you continue to push yourself towards your goals, but we're not going to push you so hard that you can't show up the next day. So you can think about this feature as your personalized roadmap on Tonal. We're going to give you exactly what you need to achieve your goals. And not only are you going to get that kind of on that week to week basis, but what we're also really excited about is you're going to be able to view trends in your performance over time. So you can see how often you're maybe hitting the mark, how often you're maybe a little bit below, and then you can make changes. So we're really excited about that. Maybe one more call out that I'll make too is that we're going to have milestones. So we know how much people love volume milestones, streak milestones. So when you do hit your weekly target, you can actually earn milestones for that. And we definitely encourage you guys to share that with us in the OTC.
I love it. Yeah, Brooke, it's so funny because I just taught a live class this morning, and I will concur. There is nothing that like gets our members amped like seeing a milestone. Like it's so huge. Like you're grinding away like on the day-to-day level that when you have those moments to zoom out, even if it's at a smaller scale, like every 2 weeks, and be like, holy crap, wow, I did get somewhere, that you add that to the motivation factor and then consistency only skyrockets from there. So yeah, I really love how you broke this down. So if I'm hearing that right, as I transition to Jake, right, it's basically each training effect goal has a different metric it measures, right? So for muscle growth, it's different versus weight loss. And with that metric, it's going to give them almost like these 2 week summaries of almost like, here's where you've come in the last 2 weeks. And then people can basically use that information to set targets for the upcoming weeks. And that way they're constantly calibrating. Did I capture all that correctly?
The only tweak I'll make is it'll actually be at the weekly level. So even
At
more
the weekly level. Okay.
bite-sized. You'll get that for the week. And then, yeah, you can look back at all these, well, not all these 8 weeks or 12-month time frames. You can look at any different period to see how you've been progressing.
Amazing. Okay, I love that's even better. Yeah, I feel like the more frequently people can get these, the more
Mhm.
it's like, I think again, from a coach perspective, the more frequent feedback someone is getting, just the more aligned they can make their actions towards their goal. So I love that. Amazing. Thank you, Brooke. Jake, there are so many different metrics that you can use to measure these training goals, like we just talked about. How did we land on these?
Well, the first, I think the thing to mention is a lot of collaboration between all of our teams here at Tonal and, especially amongst the performance staff. And primarily, we're going to look for the research. What does the literature say? Is there a clear metric that on the performance team, if our members gradually increase their exposure in one metric for each goal, would that give us confidence that they're going to achieve the outcomes that they've let us know are important for them? So that's kind of like the first filter that we're looking through is, what does the data say? But then we were also thinking, we know that people like tracking metrics, but in the exercise science field, when you're out there in the real world, it can be pretty difficult to capture a lot of different metrics. Either it's time consuming and you have to bring pen and paper to the gym, or even if you're in a high performance setting, you have to like attach these different devices to capture the velocity of your moves. So we tried to see, what does the research say? Is there any metrics that have a dose response relationship between exposures and outcomes? But then also, like, what are we uniquely suited at Tonal to capture for people automatically and give them these insights on a weekly level that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise? It was kind of like the two things that we were thinking about.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's again, I think this whole thing is just it's just a bite-sized sample of like how as Tonal as a company, as a product as a whole, our goal is really to take these high-level evidence-based training concepts and bring them down to earth for people, not just from a, simple to understand type of way, but literally in terms of access. Like what you said, right? Like if we were in a performance setting, I was in exercise science as well in college, and like have just seen what some of these look like in a lab. So for our members to be able to go up to their tonal and just have like the specific metric for their one goal tracked for them is so cool. So shout out to you and all of your team's work. Thank you for bringing all that down to earth for us. So can we just what I'm going to do next, Jake, is I'm going to give you just a very rapid fire ask you what each training goal, training effect goal is, and then can you talk very briefly? And this could be, I'll leave this up to you. You can pick one or two out that are that you really want to like go into, or if you want to just do rapid fire. It can you break down just like one example of how that words, it's Friday, how that metric is going to help us drive that outcome. So for example, muscle growth, we have volume, strength, we have strength sets, weight loss, we have work. I think that's one that people are like, ooh, what does that mean? We have endurance, which are endurance sets. We have functional strength, which is our FS score, and then movement quality, which is our MQ score, and then performance, which is power reps. Which one of those do you feel like people are probably curious about in terms of how that relates to their goal?
For sure. I mean, we already touched on volume a bit, so maybe I can jump down to strength sets. But kind of tied into the content scoring, if we're building a workout or if we're trying to help someone improve their strength, the main training variable we're going to manipulate here is the load or the intensity. So if you take a workout that has that strength bar that's pretty close to filled, you can expect to have, a couple of sets in that workout where we're above, 72% of your 1RM. So workouts that have sort of like this high intensity threshold, the more exposure to those sets is where you're going to start to see those bars become more filled. And we also wanted to capture that from a metric standpoint to give you feedback that you're going in the right direction, but also, like Brooke mentioned, to give you some guidelines to not only say this is a workout that's good for you, but to answer that question of how much. So strength sets is kind of a derivative of the content scoring where we're going to reward every single set you perform above 72% of your 1RM. So that's what we coined a strength set. And you'll get slightly more points the heavier the set is. So whether it's 80% of your 1RM or 85% of your 1RM. But if you take workouts that have, multiple of those bars filled for strength, you can be confident you're going to get exposures to those sets. And then every single set you perform that's above 72% of your 1RM, you'll be rewarded a strength set. And then that'll, adjust weekly, as Brooke mentioned.
Love that. So it's almost a more specific way of, because I know one of the things we track now is like volume, right? Overall volume at the end of someone's workout, they can see how much volume they captured overall. But what you're saying is strength sets, that's a very specific subset of that volume. How much of this volume actually drove you towards your strength target specifically?
Yeah, I mean, and all of these are very goal specific. So
Yeah.
we know our members have different desires. So all these metrics are going to be specific to the goals that you've led us and that you've known that are interesting or relevant for you. So if you're more interested in muscle growth, that's your primary goal, we're going to, primarily surface to you your volume target. As we know, that's sort of the main metric we're surfacing there. If you also let us know, hey, I'm interested in muscle growth, but I do want to develop strength as well, you can also see your strength sets target. And then as we go into what you mentioned as work, as potentially being something that needs some extra explanation, if weight loss is one of your goals, the key metric that we're tracking for you is work. And essentially, we know that weight loss, there's a holistic component to it between, burning calories and also, the nutritional aspects of it as well. But what we can control at Tonal is how much work you perform. And we know that there's going to be this relationship between the work you perform on Tonal and the calories that you're going to burn. So in those workouts that have a full weight loss bar, there's going to be a lot of work that's being performed there. So what we're trying to do for you on your weight loss journey is help you burn as many calories as you can. And the reason why we chose work as our metric is in the fitness field, there's a lot of snake oil and there's a lot of things that aren't really accurate. And we can track work with a very high level of precision. So from an exercise science standpoint, we're really happy about that. And what work is essentially is we're just looking at the distance that the cables are traveling and the load that you're applying into those cables as well. So, there's going to be a relationship between the work performed and the calories burned. But work for us is just something that we know we can measure very accurately, where the exact calories that a member is going to burn is going to differ for everyone. So it's just, it's a good proxy measurement that we can measure really, really accurately.
Yeah. Wow. Jake, as you're describing that, first of all of it makes complete sense. And two, I think I have a really strong appreciation for your team because I really see like you said, in the fitness industry and social media, all this stuff, it can be very easy to like get confused. And I really see your team as kind of being the BS detector. Like you're our in-house like BS detectors to be like, hey, you have this goal. Here's all the things to not worry about, and here's the key thing to actually worry about and focus on. So I love that. Jake, can you talk about why it's so important to look at just historical performance? What is the significance of the 8 weeks timeline and 12 months?
Yeah, so I think one of the key strength training principles is this notion of progressive overload. Like if you want to adapt, you're going to have to push yourself. So this long-term view is a great way to hold yourself accountable to see, am I gradually exposing myself to more of this stimulus that's relevant for my goals? So on one hand, it can be a great opportunity to take a step back and say, hey, look, like I've been exposing myself to more volume over time. I'm doing what I need to do, to put myself in a position to achieve my goals. But also, like a lot of people in the fitness community, if it's difficult for you to track these metrics, you don't really know how you've been doing over time. And especially as we get into some of the more nuanced metrics like our power and endurance sets that you weren't going to go out of your way to track on your own. It just gives you some objective information. How have I been doing? And if you start to see yourself going in the right direction, that's great. But it also gives you the opportunity to course correct and use some of those filters like Brooke mentioned earlier. If you see, yeah, my strength sets, they were going in the right direction, but then I've kind of fell off. Now you have all the tools and you'll put yourself in a position to see, okay, what do I need to do to put myself back on track? I need to do more strength sets so I can expose myself to the stimulus that's going to help me get stronger. I'm going to filter for workouts that are high in strength. So it's just an opportunity to say, am I going in the right direction? And if not, what are some steps I can take to help me get there?
Amazing. Yeah, one of my keywords just in general just for life this year, but also specifically in my coaching has been simplify. Like how do I like simplify? So like when I'm communicating something, it's like how do we do that in the most concise way possible? And again, here it's like you're giving people this very specific thing where it's like, here's the thing, here's your feedback. How'd you perform? Was it within range? Amazing. Keep going. Was it not? It's okay. You're still a great person, but we want you to get to your goals. So use this information in your next workout. So I really love that. I also love that you talk about that principle of progressive overload because as we know, like that coaches, we're always talking to our members about that. And I think this gives just another opportunity for that concept of gradually applying more and more stress to the body so that our body can become more resilient over time and can kind of become what we want it to be in terms of our goals. I think it's just one more way to bring that concept to life. So I love that. Jake, I got one last question for you before I toss it to Brooke. Do you have any tips for members of our community who may be having a challenging time making progress?
Yeah, I think the main thing to mention, the first thing to mention is just to know that, training and training engagement, like anything, is a cyclical process. So there's going to be ups and downs. And even like when Brooke mentioned sort of the engagement process with having these achievements, when we were working on these internally, my training skyrocketed. I started to get some of this feedback and I started to train more specific to my goals and at a greater frequency. And I'm looking at these values. So I'm like already just really having an impact from the features. But life has kind of happened too. I've had to travel a lot for work. And now I'm having to sort of respond to the question you just asked me, where I'm seeing some of my personal metrics go back down. But I think it helps to have that information, but also to understand, like I know why that's happened. It's not because I've decommitted to my goals. It's that life kind of got in the way. So I think it's just not being too hard on yourself. and putting yourself in a position to get back on track. And I think one of those things could be I might be tempted to jump into a house of volume workout with Joe, and really, really skyrocket back into it. But that might not be the most sustainable. So if you find yourself not being as engaged, not making progress, just take some small steps in the right direction, whether that's a quick fit or just a couple of workouts to get you back in there. But yeah, don't be disheartened because training, as with life, is just filled with these ups and downs.
Wow, I did. I got a smile on my face right now because I'm like, wow, I feel like you were coaching me right now. I'm like, Jake, can you be my coach? No, I love that. I mean, it's such a necessary reminder, right? And I think it just goes to show, like, even if you are like for our members, like even if you are for us who we work in fitness, we have backgrounds in sports science or whatever it is, like we're all humans. And I think what I really love about what you said, Jake, is this is really going to help people contextualize the data, not just get numbers and like get random, figures and then be like, ah, this number is down. That means I'm a piece of crap, right? Like what you're saying is like we can really use this data so that people can align that with, okay, what was happening in that period of my or in this most recent period of my life? What was happening in this one? And we can kind of start to create a narrative that's more helpful for us versus one that makes us feel like a failure. And then to our whole point earlier, that's what then derails consistency in the long run. So thank you so much for sharing that. Brooke, as we get to the end of our fun little chat here, how do you find workouts and programs that are right for your goals? I think you may have touched on this a little bit already at the beginning, but is there anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just to reiterate as a parting thought, like you can always use any of our recommendations that say, based on your goal. And we'll be specific. We know what goal you've selected, so we'll make sure that we always call it out. So you can just keep an eye on if it's muscle growth, out for workouts for muscle growth, programs for muscle growth. You can always use the filters, but no, I think we're really excited to have both of these features launched together as well because they really are so supportive of one another, right? You're having a sense of this is the exact right amount I need to contribute to this goal based on personalized weekly targets, and then you're supported with the scorecard or our enhanced workout details to be able to help you figure out, okay, this is the workout or program who's going to help me get there. So we're really excited about that. We also have lots of blog posts as resources. I just wanted to call that out as well. You can find those in the mobile app or our website. If you ever want to know more about the specifics of what does this metric mean, what is this feature telling me, and we're always available to chat more.
Amazing, Brooke. Thank you so much for that. Y'all, I'm super, full disclosure, I'm gonna break the fourth wall a little bit here. Before Brooke, Jake, and I even started recording, I was just telling them like just how excited I am. I mean, I've said that I think 100 times during this recording, but it's because I mean it. I really do think that if you have not tracked your metrics or your progress in this sort of way before, ever in your training life, even if you've been working out for like years at this point, and you just haven't tracked them in this very simplified yet detail-oriented way, y'all, the call to action is set your training effect goals. Like do that because if you don't, I promise you, if you don't do that, I mean, can you make progress? But like, yes, but I think your ability to focus and just find that consistency, I think all of that will be amplified if Tonal knows exactly here is your hierarchy of goals, one, two, three. We use that scorecard, we use these new features, and it's all going to work super cohesively to give you the best experience possible. Because as you know, for me, if you're taking the time to show up, I want to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. Brooke and Jake want to make sure you're getting the most out of it. So go do that. Set your training effect goals if you have not yet. Brooke and Jake, I cannot thank you both enough for just lending us your brains. You're both so brilliant in your respective fields and the teams that you've worked on to bring this to life. So thank you for joining me today. And Tonal community, I will talk to you real soon. Set those training effect goals. Talk to you soon.